at 0800, I'm going to just do my due diligence and check the lives, specifically LinkedIn, just to make sure it is live. Give me a moment. Oh, we are going live. Good stuff. Okay. All right. So I'm going to keep an eye on the chat just to see if there's any comments or questions, but I didn't do a ton of promotion for this particular lesson. But if you do have any questions, please add them to the comments below. Ideally on LinkedIn, because that's where I'll look right after this presentation. But if you do have other questions, feel free to email us at getbetter@movement-rx.com. All right, so I'm in my little office here in Southwest Colorado. I've got Skelly is just kind of showing you here that you can be anything you want to be: cowboy, cowgirl, superwoman, Wonder Woman, a firefighter, a police officer. You can be anything you want to be if you set your mind to it. Before we get started, just to let people kind of come on in, there's a wonderful book that I'm reading. As most of you know, I do work in the mindfulness space, meditation space. I use that as my own personal therapy. That's what I use to help myself, as well as movement. And I work with some amazing people who teach that stuff. But I'm reading an amazing book called Into the Magic Shop by Dr. Dottie. It's an amazing book about his personal story to becoming a very successful neurosurgeon, and amongst other things, but how meditation really helped change the course of his life. And I would have to say the same for myself, and this does lead into what we're talking about today with back pain. Mindfulness and meditation has changed the trajectory of my life and my business and all the things that I do with my family. It's been very enriching. So if you're interested in learning more about this work, email us, getbetter@movement-rx.com, and we'll be happy to answer any questions and show you what programs we have to offer, to include this wonderful 90-day mindfulness and movement experience that is coming up towards the end of this month. It's something you can invest in and do and actually get some access with some great coaches, to include myself. So without further ado, I'm going to just check and see if there's any questions yet. Not yet. Okay. So this morning, right, is lesson 3 of low back pain school. Lesson 1 was on just the evidence of back pain in general and the best practices for healing your back pain. And it actually does come down to strength, right? Building strength in your lower back. Most of the time, that lower back is not the cause of the problem, right? There's limited hip mobility, limited thoracic mobility, and the low back, just there's a wear and tear and a friction that can happen, and a weakness where pain happens, where things like bulge disc, herniations, stenosis, things like that can pop up. But the cause of those issues still usually are not just in the low back. So one of the best ways to heal musculoskeletal or this insidious low back pain, insidious is where doctors are just, they're not sure why it happens. It might just be postural, might just be the fact that you don't sleep enough. There's lots of reasons, but is building strength in that lower back. Okay. So the second week we talked about core. What is the core? And, you know, I did a whole video on that as well. You can watch it on YouTube. I also did a post yesterday with the links to the different classes, but, and these classes will turn into blogs on our website too. So you can check them out there at movement-rx.com. But the second lesson was on core stability. And what is that? Essentially from, you know, the base of the neck to the mid thigh is your core. And oftentimes that's a word thrown around by coaches and health professionals, like, oh, you just need to strengthen your core. Well, that's all great, but what is it? And what part of the core? Is it all of it? Is it how it rotates? Is it how much it flexes? Is it how strong it is? Like, what is the specific area of the core, and why do you need to strengthen it, or why do you need to mobilize it? What's the importance for this individual? Because just working on your core, strengthening your core is too vague, right? So getting down to the specifics of where in the core is important. And why? Why do you need to work on that area? Is it the cause of why the low back pain is happening? That's something when you go in to see a health provider, and that's maybe a term that they say, or coach, ask them, why? Why do I need to strengthen my core? And what part of my core, right? Knowing that it comes from the base of the neck to the top of the thigh, what area? And what is the purpose of me focusing on this whole general area? Obviously, it's a good thing, but it's good to get down to the specifics as to why. And today is on mobility. All right, so I'm going to show you some videos on how to help mobilize your lower back. And this is something, these are actually 4 techniques that you can do on a daily basis. So it covers your spine likes repetition, right? It likes repetition and extension. It likes repetition and flexion. So flexion is bending over. It likes repetition and extension. So bending backwards, which some of you, if you're just waking up, might feel stiff there. Might feel stiff in all the areas of your lower back at the moment, but let's get it loosened up. So you can do this with me, or no, this is recorded and you can do these movements later. The other 2 exercises, we've got some mid-back rotation that you can do when you're in bed, right? Before you go to sleep, when you first wake up, or on the ground. And then we also have what we call we're going to do a hip capsule glide. So where are my bones? Oh, I put the bones, because it's going to be Halloween, in the window. So this is the femur, right? This is the head of the femur. And towards the back of the femur, back of the capsule, okay, because of sitting or just being more sedentary, it can get really stiff. And so what we want to do is open up the back part of this capsule and stretch it out. And the capsule is something that encompasses this whole hip joint, right? It's a ball and socket, as you can see on Skelly right there, ball and socket joint. So what we're doing is we're stretching out the back part of that capsule. And what that does is it allows more access to the glutes. It helps you just feel freer in your hips. So when you do go to flex and extend, you don't feel so stiff. To make a permanent change, this is something you have to do on a consistent basis, but meaning like 7 to 8 months, right? We have the ability to build neuroplasticity in our brain, change the way we think, change the way we process things, change our anger responses, change our sadness responses. Just like in the body, we have the ability to make our tissues more plastic, right? Meaning we can create permanent change there if we do something consistent enough, right? So if you have a scrunchie here, if I stretch this enough, right? If I stretch it once, it's going to go back to its normal length. If I stretch it consistently, right, it's going to turn into this, it's going to stretch out, right, and become longer. So we enter what we call that plastic range of the stress strain curve of tissues. All right. So this is the first exercise, all right, of what mobility technique I want to teach you. So you can do this. This is something you can do 3 or 4 times a day, 10 to 15 reps. I'm going to pull it up. It's not the one. Okay. All right. I'm going to play this. And you're not going to hear the audio. That's okay. So you'll notice my hands are underneath my shoulders. This is when I was blonde. So I have so many different videos of me at different phases of my life, to include when I was pregnant. But this one, right, I'm pressing up and coming down. And I'm going up about halfway first. So just give this a second. Don't want that. So I'm going up about halfway, a full arm extension or straightening my arm. And each time I go up, I'm going a little bit further. Right? So you can kind of ease into this, but ideally you want to get into doing about 10 or 15 reps at any given time during your day. This could be in the morning or evening or sprinkled throughout your day. All right. So the next video I'm going to show you is knees to chest. So this one is great. It's the opposite of what you just saw.
And tuck your pelvis under and draw your ribs down. All you're doing with this drill is bringing your knees to your chest.
So I'm bringing my knees to my chest, and I'm consistently bringing my knees to my chest and putting my feet down. Bringing my knees to my chest and then bringing my feet down.
You can drive your knees out.
Just like I did with the extension, right?
And then bring your feet
it's
back
like
down.
Constantly getting movement to that lower back.
Lift your legs up.
Let's see.
Draw those knees towards your chest. Bring your feet back down. Work to keep your low back relatively flat.
So this same one, right, you're going to want to do 3 to 4 sets a day, right? Hold on a second here. 3 to 4 sets a day, 10 or 15 reps. And we did have a question about how about exercise hanging in bars? So I guess exercise hanging from a pull-up bar, getting some traction. Yeah, that's fine too. It's not necessarily realistic for a lot of people. And these drills are things you can do at home, easy to do, and don't take a lot of effort, right? And can help bring a lot of relief as well as mobility to the lower back. So we kind of think of it as like, what's the lowest hanging fruit? You can hang from the bars by your feet, right? There's different devices that can hold your feet up there. You can hang from the pull-up bar with your arms, right? That's fine. But at the end of the day, your spine does like repetition, movement. So extension, flexion, side bending, rotation, all those kinds of things. Just hanging from a bar isn't getting you a lot of movement, but it is providing some traction, which is nice. So thanks for that question. Let's go to another couple more videos here. All right. Let's see what this one is. Nope, not that one. Okay. So this one is what we call a posterior hip glide.
Get a weight or a big thick
So you'll see I'm getting a weight and an ab mat or a pillow of some sort.
Place one knee on top.
Placing one knee on top of that.
Your opposite knee down on the ground to start.
I'm letting the other leg kind of hang out.
Shift
and
that foot
kind of anchor it behind the knee, the leg that is on the weight or pillow, or even it could be a book.
In the back of the butt.
And I'm letting all my body weight kind of hang out. Let it buffer for a second. I'm letting all of my body weight kind of hang out over that hip.
Feel a nice pull through the butt. Relax all the tissue around that mobilized side, the side that's on the book.
So you're going to hang out there and kind of shift your weight to the left or right to see what feels better, feels more intense in the back of the hip joint, right? So it kind of looks like a pigeon stretch, but it's not. Like the femur is directly underneath that
your body relax around the hip, down your elbows.
I'm swinging my foot out, or I can swing my foot
hip
in
side to
as
side
well.
to feel what feels the most pull in that back of the hip.
So I'm getting a nice stretch to the back of the capsule.
Hang out and.
All right. Okay, and the last one here, let's see. All right, is some rotation. So this is thoracic rotation. You can do this laying in bed, trying to keep your knees together, right, versus popping up and letting your mid-back rotate. Yep, just like that, right? Keeping your knees and hips in alignment and just moving the arms, that upper body opens up. Right. And I would suggest doing about, 20 reps each side, and whatever side feels more stiff, do an extra set of 10 on that side. All right. Okay. So let's see if there's any questions about this. We got hello from Argentina. Awesome, Daniel. How about Ernesto? Let me know if that answered your question there. All right, so we learned 4 different exercises, and they target the specific needs of the back. So it needs repetition, good repetition, in extension and flexion, right? And that follows those first 2 exercises follow what we call the Robin Mckenzie method of kind of fix your own back. Your body wants to flex or extend, not necessarily under load, right? Lifting heavy things, but just normally, it brings a lot of nutrients. So motion is lotion to the joints. The third one was that posterior hip glide where we were stretching out the back of the capsule. Right? So you think of this capsule encompassing the hip joint and it gets stiff and the muscles around it get stiff. So that third exercise of opening up the hip joint, super therapeutic, right? It'll help you improve your squat, even when you go sit to a chair, when you go sit to a toilet, when you bring your knee up towards your chest, right? You'll feel like you get more range of motion. But again, you got to do it consistently. And then the fourth one that we just did was the thoracic rotation. So opening up that mid back, because when that mid back gets really stiff, it can actually be detrimental to that lower back. If the mid back gets really stiff, then that means the lower back has to work harder and there can be more friction down there. Just like if the hips get really stiff. So, at the end of the day, we want good repetition to the low back, but we also want to open up and mobilize that mid back and hip area. So with that being said, those are some of the 4 key mobilization techniques I want to show you. In 2 weeks from now, so the final lesson of the low back pain school will be on teaching you movements, just some of the primal movements and how to set them up and cue. I will give you some cues that will help you do them better, because at the end of the day, how you squat and hinge and push and pull and carry things, right? Those are the things that oftentimes, if you accrue poor reps doing those things, it becomes a musculoskeletal problem or injury down the line. And so on the preventative side of movement health and even in physical therapy, being more proactive about your movement health, we want to think about, how are you moving? What's the quality of your movement? Let's make that quality better. And good stuff. All right, no other questions right now. So this is going to be on LinkedIn Live and on YouTube, and we'll be on our blog pretty soon. But I will make sure to post in advance about the 4th lesson. So if you guys have any questions, or ladies, you can definitely ask them. The couple things coming up for our company, Movement RX, is when we have a 90-day movement and mindfulness experience that I'm running with my team and retired Navy SEAL Commander John McCaskill and Will Schneider. We're running this starting end of October, and we'll be launching signups soon for that. And then we also we'll have 2 different retreat locations and dates for next year, because we had a great response to this first retreat, and we'll have new dates for next year that you can sign up as soon as possible. We will have an East Coast and a West Coast retreat. So wanted to let you know about that. And without further ado, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And actually, as someone very special used to tell me, you can make it a great day. All right. See you next time.